Hey guys, JamesMCD Reviews here. Welcome to another self-aware episode of JamesMCD's Friday Nightmare. And today we'll be heading back to Elm Street as we take a look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, released in 1994, directed by Wes Craven. This one takes a much more meta, self-aware approach to the Nightmare on Elm Street series, as it deals with Freddy Krueger hopping into the real world, going after the real-life actress Heather Langenkamp after a series of nightmares involving her young child. This movie could kind of act as a blueprint for what would eventually go on to be the Scream series. I mean, both were directed by Wes Craven. Both took a very, self-aware twist on their respective properties. I mean, Scream focused much more on 80s and 90s slashers just in general, whereas this one focused specifically on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And this one I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really good. I like sort of the angle that it went with. I like that it kind of plays around with the conventions of horror movies. I like that it kind of blurs the line between horror movies and reality, and the effects that sort of those long-running popular franchises can have on an actor or actress or a group of people who are involved. I'd like to imagine that this is what every legacy actor goes through when they're asked to return for a remake or a reboot of a popular horror franchise. And I think this was a really clever and smart direction to take it, because I mean, the Nightmare movies at this point had been kind of run into the ground. Most of what could be done with them had already been done. They weren't really connecting with people as much as they used to. They even killed off Freddy, and it was a big disappointment and kind of a letdown. So to bring it back and revitalize it and take this approach to it was, I think, much needed, and I think it worked out. A lot of the events in this movie are semi-based in reality. One of the major plot points is Heather Langenkamp, who plays herself in the movie, is paranoid about an obsessive fan that keeps calling her and leaving shit in her mailbox. And around the same time, Heather Langenkamp in real life had an actual stalker who was harassing her and everything like that. So Wes Craven decided to use that as inspiration for part of the movie. Wes Craven himself, in the when writing the original Nightmare on Elm Street, it was based off a series of nightmares that he had, and that's one of the inciting incidents of this movie. The reason that Freddy comes back and all these crazy shit starts happening is because Wes Craven is having nightmares and is writing a new script for a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund both come back in this movie as themselves and also their respective characters, and I thought it was sort of interesting, showing sort of the different points of view of how we see early on that Robert is really sort of embraced the crazy fandom that the Nightmare on Elm Street movies have sort of amassed over those years, whereas Heather kind of wants to move on. She's said on interviews, it's Freddy's dead, that's in the past. I kind of distanced myself after the third one. I'm kind of doing more TV work now. I've got a kid, I've got a family and everything like that. So I kind of like that they sort of, it is very brief, but I do like they kind of show sort of the two perspectives of how that sort of massive success and massive franchise can have on a person's life. They also briefly deal with sort of the effects that horror movies can have on little kids, because a good portion of this movie shows Heather's kid Dylan being targeted by Freddy and having nightmares and everything like that. And people are saying oh, are you showing your kids these movies and stuff like that? And she's well, everyone knows who Freddy is. There's no real point in hiding it. You're he's gonna find out eventually. And there is always that argument, is when is the right age to show your kids scary movies and movies like the Elm Street series. I mean, for fuck's sake, I knew a girl in high school who saw Eraserhead when she was like 6. So like it kind of all depends on like the kid and, you know, the circumstances, and like whether you're okay with that as a parent and you feel like your child is like mentally equipped to handle that sort of stuff at that particular age. But here it shows, I guess, like the highest like extreme of like what those effects can be. But I do kind of really like those different angles that they took. Ironically enough, the one point where I feel like the movie kind of loses me is when it needs to be a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Like towards the last act, when like, you know, they're going over how to stop Freddy and how to set things right and everything like that. And it essentially turns into the last act of Nightmare on Elm Street again. Like Heather is you can see her gradually transforming into Nancy. She gets the white streak in her hair. She gets her clothes. John Saxon, who plays her dad in this one and in the original, starts calling her Nancy and everything like that. And she even shows up in front of the Elm Street house. Like, when it gets to that point, like, it kind of starts to lose me a little bit. Like, it's not bad, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely think this was a return to form after 4 movies of, like, goofy, like, self-aware Freddy. Like, it was nice to kind of see scary Freddy again. I like his design. I like how menacing he is. I love the sets and the special effects and everything like that. I like how ruthless he is. But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it's been done. We've seen all this before, and it's kind of hard to really get invested, especially when you know that in the context of this movie that it's a movie. So like, it's hard to really have that like emotional like connection or that intensity when you know that like nothing bad is really gonna happen. But like I said, when it needs to be a scary movie, it's fine. Like, I thought it had some good tension, it had some good build up. Like, again, like I said, the scenes, the effects were really good. Seeing Robert Englund back as Freddy was really cool, and seeing him as like creepy Freddy again was a welcome return to form. But I don't know, I feel like it was going in such like an interesting direction with a lot of the self-aware like angles that it was taking, that when it actually turns back around and just becomes another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, like I said, it's not bad, but it is like just kind of if I'm being honest. But that does not detract from my enjoyment of the movie at all. I still thought it was really good. I think it's about on par or a slight level above Dream Warriors. I don't think it's as good as the first one. I don't think anything ever will be, but it is definitely a nice return to form, and I would highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. So, going to my ranking, I would have to give Wes Craven's A New Nightmare a 3.5 out of 5. But anyway, that does it for another episode of the Friday Nightmare. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Where does it rank amongst the Nightmare on Elm Street movies? And what did you think of like the new sort of self-aware take that they brought to it? Let me know all that stuff down below. Tune in tomorrow because I'll be taking a look at the next Friday the 13th movie, Jason X. Can't wait. Until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.